Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's far from satisfied with the results of a new round of diplomatic talks between the West and Iran over its controversial nuclear energy program. The talks, which took place in Istanbul, Turkey, left Netanyahu, he says, with the impression that Iran got a, quote, freebie, that is 5 free weeks to enrich uranium without any limits until the talks reconvene in May. And Netanyahu warned that the world's greatest practitioner of terrorism should not be given the opportunity to develop atomic bombs. Netanyahu's remarks stand in stark contrast to the cautious optimism being expressed by Western negotiators following Saturday's meeting with Iranian leaders in Istanbul. While the talks brought no breakthrough, the fact that they happened at all after more than a year's break is being hailed as a sign of progress. This time, unlike last year, Iran actually talked about its nuclear ambitions instead of avoiding the topic by insisting on a precondition that economic sanctions be lifted. EU Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton called the talks, quote, constructive. The White House echoed that, describing them as a positive first step. A second round of negotiations will take place on May 23rd in Baghdad. But for Israeli leaders, it's too soon to believe Iran has turned a new page.
Iran got a second date, and it's important to see what it's willing to offer on this important date and how far it's willing to go. And based on the outcome of the second meeting, I think Israel's leaders will have more real substance to be either concerned or enthusiastic.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has been clear about what Israel expects. He recently said he wants the removal from Iran of all enriched uranium, a halt to further enrichment, and the dismantling of the underground nuclear facility at Qom. Sources close to Western negotiators say their demands won't be that severe. Iran reportedly has been asked to halt all uranium enrichment at 20% and will be allowed to keep some of its low-grade uranium enriched at 3.5%. Qom won't be shut down, but instead monitored closely by the IAEA. If leaked reports are to be believed, Iran is very concerned about a military strike and asked the U.S. and Europe to promise to hold off on any attack while negotiations continue. Israel is still reserving the right to do whatever is necessary to defend itself, including a preemptive strike.
I think for Israel, when it comes to considering the possibility of an attack, the most important factor is Iran building a bomb? And as far as we know, the Iranians are right now not building a bomb. I think that's going to be the #1 priority. If the talks succeed, then I think they are going to reduce the even theoretical possibilities of war.
Even if the talks don't succeed, Israel would find it nearly impossible to justify a military strike while the negotiations are ongoing. Fears in the region of an impending Israeli strike and greater war, which reached a pitch recently, now seem to have abated. The question now facing Israeli leaders is how long can they quietly support another round of international diplomacy? They believe in the past Iran has manipulated and deceived the West during negotiations with all kinds of stalling tactics to continue secretly developing nuclear weapons. Many fear this round could bring more of the same. Now Israeli officials say it's up to Iran this time to show that they're serious, not just in words, but in deeds. Jordana Miller, JN1, Jerusalem.